Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to yet another episode of Listen to the Experts. This is episode 4. In case you've missed the previous episodes, they're available on the Nikon India YouTube channel. You can always go back and listen to them. This episode will also be available after we're done with the live session, so you can always go back, listen to the session, share it with friends, family, whoever you think will be interested in this. So that option is always there for you. And yes, I think without any further delay, let's get on with today's session. We have a very special guest with us today here. We have Miss Dhanika Choksi, who has captured over 300 weddings across the globe. She's been featured in various websites, blogs. We've seen her on Band Baja Bride with Sabyasachi, uh, and her work has been published in various publications like Vogue, Inspiro India, and many others. So, without any further ado, let's welcome Miss Dhanika Choksi. Hello,
Hi,
Dhanika-san. Hi,
Sahil.
how are you?
I'm
How
very
are we
well.
doing today?
Thank you for having me, Sahil. This is kind of unbelievable. Like when I picked up my first Nikon camera, I did not think I would be on a Nikon channel talking. It's. I'm very grateful for this. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here with us. Before we begin our conversation, just for the benefit of people who might have not seen your work, who are not familiar with your work, we'll play a small montage of it's a collection of your best work. So if we can have that now, please. All right. First of all, let me congratulate you on this amazing collection of content that you've had over the past few years. We'll talk about that in great detail. But before we get into that, all of that, let's kind of talk about how you started in your journey into photography. If I'm not wrong, wedding photography was not the first genre that you chose. It
Yes.
was a genre that I personally am a very big fan of, which is wildlife photography, because I am a wildlife photographer as well. Uh, so, if you could just tell us as to how you got into wedding photography, wildlife photography first, and
Okay.
maybe then how did that switch happen into wedding photography?
Okay, so photography by itself was never a plan. It was never, one of the ducks in the row that everybody
Mhm.
has, when they're planning their life. It was just a hobby, that I picked up, and I always loved animals, so I said, okay,
Mhm.
let me go on a trip to Corbett, and that's when I bought my first camera, and
Okay.
then I think it was a D5000 that I picked up in 2010. And and then I didn't have the big lenses. I didn't know how to do wildlife photography, none of it. It was just my love for two things, photography and animals, and I just combined the two, and and then I started with Corbett. Then slowly I realized that I enjoyed it so much that then I did more of it. Like I went to Sundarbans, and I went to Ranthambore, and I went to all the other wildlife parks in India. Even went to Africa. I went for the wildebeest migration to Masai Mara. did that. So it was just something I enjoyed. It was just a passion. I think weddings was
Mm-hmm.
never on the back of my mind. But at the same time, on the other side, the wedding industry was going through this whole revolution, right? Like where people were
True.
completely seeing weddings as in a different light. They were shooting differently. They were shooting like they were the best friend and not the photo wali bhaiya. That revolution happened. And I think what happened was I had a friend who got married, and I had a camera, and I said, okay, let's just take a few pictures at his wedding as well. And I
Mm-hmm.
Facebook was big then, so I put up those pictures on Facebook, and people genuinely appreciated it, and inquired with me if I would shoot for their wedding. And I was like, what, you want to pay me for shooting your wedding? so so yeah, it was absolutely serendipitous. It was not planned. It was not in my mind at all. And
Mm-hmm.
then I realized that, okay, there might be something here. So I agreed to shoot a few weddings very happily. But then I realized that, dude, I have no, like, I've not gone to any photography school, and I have not done any master class and any of that, right? So I did what everybody does nowadays, and did back then when there were no peps and silks and all of those workshops. I YouTubed every video I could. There was a website called Creative Live, which used to have a lot of
Yes.
photographers and their workshops online and things like that. And if you watched it live, it was free. But the only way to watch it
Yes.
live was to stay up at night, because they were all in America and we were all in India. So I would stay up like, like crazy hours of the night, just like going through all those possible workshops, learning whatever I could from them. At the point, I don't remember there being any Indian photographers, who were teaching weddings at all. So that was the only way to
Right.
learn at all. And yeah, and then I just kept going at it. It started with one wedding, and then damn, 13 years down the line, I'm here talking to you.
Very interesting because I think a lot of us have a very similar kind of a journey because uh, hearing you speak, I could resonate with a lot of things because, yes, creative live, all those live sessions, staying up at night, I've also done all of that. And I'm
Yeah,
sure a lot of people have.
yeah.
The only difference being that I started with wedding photography and switched to wildlife photography, and
Oh
yours was the other way around.
wow.
Yeah. So,
I,
but
I joke when I say that weddings are no different from wildlife. The brides are as scary as the lionesses. So yeah.
yes, yes, Indian weddings can be as chaotic as say the wildlife
Yeah,
in our
yeah.
jungles.
It's as being in the jungle.
But do you not ever go back to your wildlife thing now? Is just weddings?
It's so funny that you asked me that, because this is the one thing that has always been on the back of my mind. And I feel like, now I'm hopefully a better photographer than I was then. And now is when I should actually go, pursue wildlife. But it's just that weddings kind of, take up so much of my time and my mind space that I, haven't had the opportunity to do that. But it's definitely on my to-do list now, and something I want to get back to for sure. So yeah, I'm very inspired with the fact that you went from weddings to wildlife. So yeah, I might just do.
Maybe in the so-called lean periods of wedding photography, maybe wildlife is something that you can
Yeah,
do
but the jungles are
if
close
you
there.
get the
That's
time.
what
Because
that's what happens. Yeah.
correct. Uh, so yeah. Uh, we've talked about how you switched from wildlife to weddings.
Yeah.
Now that you're doing weddings,
Hmm.
what is this about capturing these wedding moments that has made you stick to wedding photography? Uh, why not any other genre? Why didn't you go back to wildlife? What is it about wedding photography that has made you, stick to this genre?
So I don't know if you'll agree with me. I mean, all professions have its challenges and all genres have its challenges, but I think wedding photography is one of the most difficult genres of photography. I think it takes a lot of thinking on your feet. It takes, it takes for you to be social. You know, you have to have social skills as well as photography skills. You have to have some sense of aesthetic and fashion to be able to, pose your couples and things like that. So you have to have a little bit of, a sense of fashion photography in you as well. And if like me you enjoy storytelling, then you have to have a little bit of a journalistic approach to your capturing weddings as well. So it's you're just dealing with so much. You're dealing with people who are edgy. They might be happy but they might be edgy because it's weddings. They're in all sorts of moods. Your deliverables are not immediate. And if it's a
True.
commercial work, right, like the subject is somebody else and your client is somebody else. With weddings, your client is your subject. So, there'll be harsher critique. There will be not just them looking at themselves, they will also be looking at they will not look at the photo as, it's a great photo. They will look at, oh, but I have a double chin, and, that critique just changes completely. So, you're dealing with a lot of variables, and you have to balance all of them. So I think it's one of the toughest, the most challenging genres of photography, but at the same time it's also very fulfilling because I
Right.
think the way people emote when they actually see their photos, and you're giving them a legacy to live with. You're helping them see it themselves in the most beautiful light. Sometimes I get so many couples who say that, listen, we're not models and we don't look great, and I don't know how you're going to do it, but please just make us look our best selves. And it's literally all the time. So you have to make sure that they feel good about how they look. You have to make sure that they feel happy. At the same time, you've captured them in their true essence. You've not forced any mood on them, any pose on them, any of that. So yeah, I think I enjoy that. And every wedding is different. Every wedding
True.
has a different set of people. So it's a new story every time. So it's hard to kind of get bored of it. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting thing that you said, that wedding photography is something in which you kind of get a feeler of almost every genre of photography. Like, you do couple portraits, that's a sort of fashion photography or portrait photography. Then, like you rightly said, now the trend of this so-called candid photography. What is that? That's just a a photojournalistic approach to wedding photography, right? So you're doing a bit of photojournalism as well, and then in case you're doing the close-ups of your bride or groom's jewelry and stuff, so a little bit of product is there. So it's a very interesting kind of an environment for a photographer to be in. That's absolutely true.
And we're doing
Absolutely
that
true.
all in literally like with a time bomb ticking on our head, right? So we're like, because
Yes.
every time we're trying to take a photograph, somebody is needed somewhere. So if I'm taking the bride's photo, there's constantly somebody on my head telling me, all right, chalo chalo chalo, bride has to go, bride ko jana hai, bride ko jana hai. If I'm taking pictures of her jewelry, bride ko jewelry pehna hai, de do. So it's, if I'm taking pictures of the decor, there's Pandit ji who will come and plonk himself in the middle of the mandap because he just has to. So there you go. There goes my white decor shot. So yeah, there's a
Okay.
constant challenge at every step, and it takes
True.
so many skills other than photography to be good at what you do.
Absolutely, absolutely. You need a lot of people skills, a lot of communication skills to handle all of these things. Which also kind of brings me to my next question, which is, uh, how do you approach a wedding assignment? Not in terms of how you actually shoot the wedding, but also what is your process once a client approaches you? Uh, how do you, understand their requirements? tell them about your style of shooting and also the commercials involved in this. What do you charge for what kind of assignment? If you could just briefly tell us about that.
Okay, it's actually a really good question. It's a fairly long answer, so I hope I'm not taking too much time on it. But I think so. Let's start off with client calling you, right? So that's your discovery call. You kind of figure out each other. You talk to each other. They talk about themselves as a couple. You listen. I think the most important thing is you don't just ramble about yourself and say, okay, this is my style and this is what I do and this is how I'll edit and these are the deliverables I will give you. But I think genuinely being interested in them and their story kind of goes a long way from there, right? That's just your beginning. So when the client or the couple or the bride calls me, I generally tell them that, okay, tell me about your wedding and what's your vision. Because let's face it, right, it is, I mean, I know we've hyped it up to be the only event in their life that is me possibly big, but obviously it's one of the
Mhm.
biggest events and not the biggest, but still it's big, and people
True.
are excited. And and it's already hard enough as it is, so you don't want to make it harder on them. You want to show that you're excited, you're not judging them for whatever
Hmm.
choices they're making, however ridiculously big lehenga she wants to wear, whatever. Let her tell her story, and then you come in, with whatever advice or tips you want to give. In fact, you should. I'm not saying you shouldn't, because the whole point of you having, so many years of experience is that you can help them avoid, certain difficulties on the day that you already know of that can happen. So yeah, so that discovery call is all about that. I tell them that, okay, let's meet up. You tell me if you there are couples now who have mood boards. They're very much in charge
Oh
of their
yes,
wedding. Yeah, it's not like it
correct.
used to be 5 years ago. There's a whole mood board. They have Pinterest boards, and they have ideas of what thing they want things to look like.
Dhanika-san, are you there? I think we've lost you for a bit. Um, I guess we've lost Dhanika-san.
Hi, am I audible? Sorry,
Oh
there was a glitch.
yes, we lost you for a
Okay.
bit. We lost you for a bit.
Okay. So this is like a
Yeah.
wedding. Everything can go wrong will go wrong. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, where was I?
You
Yeah.
were
So
saying that couples
so the
now have mood boards. They kind of
yeah.
have an idea as to what they want.
Exactly. So they have, you listen to them. They tell you, okay, this is, we're having a day wedding, we have a night wedding, all of that. I listen to the events they're having. I tell them, okay, give me a chance. I'll find out like the best possible package for you. You want film and
Yes.
photography. What is it that you're looking for? And then I send them the package. They kind of get back to me and they say, okay, we love what we see. How do we go ahead with it? And then you kind of do contracts. I think it's a great way of letting them know what your deliverables are, what your deadlines are. They're also familiar with what to expect, what to not expect. If you're having a destination wedding, is your travel included, is your stay included? All these terms and conditions, that might seem like, okay, they're normal, but sometimes they are handling so many things, with respect to the wedding, that they might overlook those things. So at least you make sure that on your end, you have these things cleared out. So that's the end. And then I think, then again, closer to the wedding, you have another call or a meeting if you can. um,
Mm.
then you kind of get down to the schedule of the wedding, right? Like the flow of the events, things like that. They'll tell you that, okay, today's dhol night, tomorrow's mendi, next day is haldi. When the bride is getting ready, when the groom's getting ready, where they're getting ready. Do you need to split your team into different places, things like that. um, So these are all the variables. Speak to them about the light conditions, right? Like, is it happening in a banquet, is it happening in the evening, do you have sufficient light? If you're having a sangeet stage, do you have that ugly LED lights at the back? Don't backlight your subject. Things that you can hopefully help them avoid, and make sure that the output looks better.
Right.
So that's your call then. You iron out all those finer details, uh, and then there's the wedding day. I think the wedding day process is fairly simple because you're there. You make sure that you are not adding to that stress in any way, right? Like,
Right.
whatever it is, I'm generally you'll see me doing everything from being a makeup artist to being the mom's messenger, to being I've done it all. I've carried safety pins with me so that I can help any wardrobe malfunctions. I've carried
Yes.
tequila miniatures just to kind of make them calm their nerves down. And all of that. So I think I go into the day thinking that, okay, let's make sure that she's not stressed or he's not
Mhm.
stressed. uh,
Right.
because I think what happens is, a lot of times we all go in with the purpose of making photos for them, but we kind of forget that they're dealing with 500 other things. They're dealing with relatives
True.
who are annoyed. They're dealing with people who are throwing tantrums. They're dealing with people who haven't showed up. Food that probably wasn't good, or food that wasn't sufficient, and that's a lot of things on one person's plate. And if then I go
Right.
and say that chalo chalo abhi, let's do portraits right now, it's not the best situation. Um, Not only is she going to be unhappy about taking her photos, she is not going to
Mhm.
remember it as an experience she enjoyed.
Right.
You try and have the patience. You try and tell them that, okay, if you try and foresee all the problems, right? So I do tell my brides that, okay, if your makeup artist is going to say that she's taking 2 hours, please tell her that if you need to be ready at 3, if I need you at 3, then you tell her that you are going to be ready at 2. So you foresee
Ah,
that she will be late for an hour. So even if she's late by an hour, you're still fine. You'll still not be stressed, and I'm not stressing her out. And I'm not saying that chalo chalo we have to do photos now, we don't have time. I don't like that. I think I don't like the amount of pressure sometimes we as photographers put on the clients, just so we can get some great uh, award-winning images out of the client. And I think it's very important to be empathetic. There are days when these photos will not happen, your bridal portraits will not happen,
mhm.
and I tell them that's
Yeah.
okay. I just what I communicate to them is that, guys, are you sure this is it? Like, we might not have a chance later, you might get busy with guests. Are you sure you're okay with this? And they say yes, we're okay. It's more important to us that we're around our family, or we're meeting our family, and we're hanging out with our friends, and maybe I don't want to give those 15 minutes for those photos. So I tell them that's okay, that's completely fine.
Yeah.
I think it's important, that we all have some sort of empathy for everybody else in the wedding as well. So yeah, my approach is kind of chill on the wedding day. I don't stress too much. Even with
Mhm.
video or with photo, I think what we try and do is we try and not force people into any mood. I don't impose any, even with posing. My if there is time and we do go into portraits, there is no model like posing, right? Because see, eventually you have to realize that these are real people, these are not models. You
Right.
can't expect
Right.
them to pose like models, and yet I'm supposed to make them feel when they see their photo that they're a model. But at the same time, it should be a memory, right? Like, it should be about
Right.
how much they love each other, or how much they're into each other. And too much of editorial posing sometimes makes you forget that it's a wedding. So I think I try and
Yeah.
balance that out. Shit, am I going off topic? I don't know if I am. Okay.
No, no, no,
But
not at all. I am sure this is all very, very useful information,
okay.
because I've shot a fair amount of weddings when I used to do weddings, and these are
Okay.
exactly the kind of problems that you run into.
Okay.
The bride wants something, the relative is saying that no, this is not how this is going to happen, we're going to do
Yeah.
this. So I
Yeah.
think circumventing all of these problems is also a very, very important aspect of wedding photography. Just
Yeah.
being a good wedding photographer will not, just being a good photographer will not always translate into a good output. All of
Yeah.
these things are also that you need to know. And I
Yeah.
think this is where a lot of people also lack, because they're very good photographers, technically they're very
Yeah.
good.
The people
But
skills.
I think
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, like you mentioned, that you get involved in even the lighting of the venue.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't do that, and then the output obviously isn't right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think
but
I get over involved sometimes. It's not good for my own sanity. but I think the clients do see that. The bride and groom do eventually see that. They do see the amount of effort you put in. They do see that you did back off when it was required. You gave them the space when it was required.
Mhm.
And they appreciate that. Like I've had, if I may share one experience, it stayed back
Sure,
with me
sure, sure.
so much. So there was a bride who was ready kind of to walk out. Like mandap was ready, the groom was at the mandap, and
Mhm.
it was her bridal entry time. And
Okay.
I was with her because I'm generally around the bride. So I was with
Yeah.
her, and she was in the banquet about to make her way out, and then she peeped out and she saw her mandap set up, and it was completely bare in the sense that it didn't have the amount of flowers it was supposed to have. And
Okay.
she saw that, and she was like, "What happened? Where's my decor?" Like, she had been planning all these things, and she put in a lot of effort and research, and she did everything she could to make it the best looking wedding she could. And when she
Right.
saw that it didn't look anything like she had imagined, she was like, "What the hell happened?" And somebody told her that the flowers didn't turn up or something, and she was in tears. And I was like,
Hmm.
listen, I'm not gonna name her. And I was like, listen, it doesn't matter. Okay. What matters is,
Yeah.
you're marrying somebody you love. You're marrying somebody who adores you, who you want to spend the rest of your life with. This is rare. The fact that you're getting to celebrate this day is great. And the flowers are a very small hiccup in that whole story. Okay, so don't focus on
Yes.
on
Yes.
on the flowers. Focus on him. Just look at him, and you'll be fine. And then she walked
That's
out, and she looked at him, she locked eyes with him, she walked down the aisle, and she was fine. And the day went on, and everybody enjoyed the wedding, and it was over. But 2 days later, she messaged me and she said, "You know what, Danika, what you said to me that day was probably the only thing I needed to hear, because of you, I enjoyed my own wedding. Otherwise, I would have not enjoyed my wedding at all. I would have been crying over the flowers, and I would have been crying over the decor. And I'm so grateful that you gave me the right perspective in that moment." Um, and when I got that message, I was smiling because I was like, so I can make a difference not just by constantly
yes.
giving her beautiful bridal portraits, but I can make a difference in another way too. And okay, maybe
Yes.
those mandap photos didn't turn out Instagram worthy
Hmm.
or whatever else that everybody else thinks. Okay, that's everybody's perspective. But at the end of the day, what matters was him and her, and she got that perspective, and I got that perspective, and I was able to help her enjoy the rest of her day, and that's a pretty big deal to me. To me, that is success.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also when you have this kind of a moment with especially the bride and groom,
Yeah.
they will allow you into their personal space, and that is when you get
Yeah.
those amazing photos. Because
Yeah.
from a distance, not being allowed in those intimate moments, those
Yeah.
all those photos will look the same.
Yeah.
But it is when you're allowed that freedom to be around the family and friends all the time is when you get those special moments. I
Yeah.
think, yeah,
And
again,
they're letting you
going back.
and they're letting you in on that intimate space, like you're saying, right? And you have to respect that space. I think we take that
Yes,
space for
yes.
granted a lot as wedding photographers, and sometimes, we get so upset over. I've seen so many photographers get upset because they didn't get the shot they wanted, and I I keep telling them that, guys, it's okay. It's You will get another wedding, but this is their wedding day. Let
Mhm.
them enjoy it. You will get another wedding to shoot. She's not gonna get another wedding to enjoy. What's more important? So yeah, it might not be the
True,
most
true, true.
sound advice as far as an artist is concerned, but yeah, I think it's important to be empathetic as well.
I think as a thumb rule, every wedding photographer should just know that what they're expecting is not what they're going to get, especially with Indian weddings. I mean,
Yeah.
if you get what you wanted, that's just a bonus, because we all know if we short Indian weddings, they're just, if 10 things can go wrong, they will probably go wrong.
Yep. And
Okay.
all 10 will go wrong. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Every
Yeah.
sunset wedding doesn't happen at sunset, right? So yeah, like that.
True, 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 true.
Yeah.
You mentioned Instagram and how people
Yeah.
are always looking for Instagram worthy images, because these days, I mean, that's the final goal that everyone is aiming to achieve.
Yeah.
So, with this all this influx of social media and Instagram, and especially Instagram Reels, has that kind of changed your approach to how you shoot weddings? Has that
No.
altered anything in your approach?
No, I haven't. I haven't. I'm so determined to have my own. That being said, that doesn't mean that I don't accept change. But
Mhm.
I'm so happy with shooting wide, with storytelling, with trying to tell a different story each time. Because if I keep shooting vertical, right, there's only that much I can show.
Mhm. True.
And if I have to shoot horizontal or landscape, I'm showing so much more. I'm showing so many layers. I'm showing a mom and a dad hugging, or I'm showing the bride and her dad hugging, and I'm also showing the groom hugging his mother-in-law at the same time.
Hmm.
So there's so much more you can tell, but in a reel, what am I can't tell that story. It's a format that is trending, but it might not always do justice to the art form that we're trying to uh,
Correct.
you know be a part of. So yeah.
Yeah. That's absolutely true, and to a great degree, I also agree to that. A lot of people,
Yeah.
what they're doing is they would probably shoot as they would, and then later adopt that into like the Instagram ratio, aspect ratio kind of a thing. Is that something that you do just for people on your social media?
That kind of depends. Like, if your goal is that, right? Is your goal to be, somebody who gets a lot of followers? Is your goal to be somebody who, wants to be social media popular?
I'm
Uh,
sorry
you
for
know,
cutting you off. I asked that question because you know that a lot of things, especially for photographers these days, depends on the number of followers that you have on Instagram. So that's why I asked that question.
Sahil, how many followers do I have? I have 11,000 followers, which are nothing compared to the lakhs and tens of thousands of followers that people have. I have never been of the opinion that I am for everybody or my work is for everybody.
Mm.
And I think that makes so
True.
much of a difference when you know that who's your audience, right? If I want to be
Yeah.
popular, which means I think that everybody is my audience and everybody is my target audience and everybody is my client, but that's not true. I don't think everybody will relate to my aesthetic, to my storytelling, to my photography, to my filmmaking, any of it. They don't necessarily have to be necessarily have to like it or relate to it. So then why am I trying to get all these followers? And honestly, followers don't
Hmm.
convert into clients. I mean, your clients are going to come from people, who refer your work. Their clients are going to come
Yeah.
from, previous couples you've had. That's how generally all of my work comes in. Like, I do a wedding. I've hopefully done a good
Mhm.
job, and they refer me to another friend. Or I've had clients where I've done five sisters in the same family, and I've done a group of friends in the same group of people. So I think you don't necessarily have to be popular um, to be successful, or to be talented, or to be validated. I think the reason people want followers is because it's some sort of a validation that we all get, and which is okay, to each their own. I'm not saying that you don't need
Yeah.
it, but it might not necessarily convert into business. So I think what you want to focus on is try and do work which will convert into business at the end of the day, right? You want to have
True.
people who will sing your praises. You want people to say that she shot my wedding, or he shot my wedding, and it was such a good
Mhm.
experience. Dhanika was there. She was like a best friend. She was like one of us. We didn't even know half the time when she was around, and when she photographed all these moments. I don't remember so many of the things happening, and she was he was the eyes to me when I couldn't be there around something. So I think that is what converts into great clients and future clients as well. So yeah, I mean, Instagram is great. I mean, I do post, but I post a lot more photos than I post reels, because I don't know, I never caught on to the to the reel trend. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I completely agree with you with the
I don't
influx
know if
of
that was a
Instagram.
satisfactory answer. Maybe people are looking to
No,
looking to get tips on that.
no, but what I think people forget with this all influx of social media and Instagram is that
Okay, there's a little bit of a lag.
it is one popular marketing tool at your disposal. It is not the only marketing tool.
Yeah.
Like you rightly said, word of mouth still holds true. It does a lot of your marketing for you. And if you feel that Instagram is not for you, maybe you should focus more on the other tools at your disposal. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think if
Yeah, it
we
depends. You
look
should
at it
also be
that way,
good at
that's
it.
great.
Yeah. I think if
Yeah,
I'm not good at dancing, then I should leave it to people who are good at dancing. So yeah, I think it's not my cup of tea.
absolutely.
But
Perfect, perfect. Okay. Now, like we've discussed about the various kinds of experiences that one has from start to finish during
Mhm.
a wedding assignment. Uh, I'm sure that it has a lot of impact on Dhanika, the person, and not just the wedding photographer. So, has wedding photography taught you a few things that you imbibe in your daily, activities as you are when you're not shooting, say, a wedding?
Yeah, first one being alcohol makes everything better. Second, haven't you seen how everybody's mood at the wedding changes the minute the alcohol, the bar opens up? Yeah. No, I'm okay. I'm just being funny. Um, no, so I think photography, has definitely taught me a lot of patience. I think it's taught me to be more empathetic. I think I wasn't so
Okay.
empathetic. How much I spoke about, like, in the last 20 minutes about being empathetic. I wasn't necessarily always like that. I think I learned, in my journey. So even the I'm going a little off topic, but
That's
when
fine.
I started off photography, I was very influenced by the Western photographers, so to say. There was this whole wave of pep and silk, and all these talks, and some amazingly talented people came in, and they spoke and they showcased their work, and I was like, oh my god, I want this 16 shot, and I want the crazy only hand showing, only lip showing, only only legs, or the shower shots. Oh my god, how have I forgotten that? There was these. this trend of everybody showering, everybody in weddings showering, that shot, and all those photographs. There were not necessarily an Indian wedding, or it not necessarily showed what an authentic Indian wedding looked like. And amongst
Mhm.
other photographers, I was one of them. I got easily influenced, and I thought, this is it. This is the thing I need to do. I need to be more artistic. I need to be more, creative, and that is what I lack. Instead of instead of seeing the wedding as the bride and groom would see it, or instead of seeing the wedding as the bride or the groom's grandparents would see the wedding, or instead of seeing it from the eye of the bride's mom, or seeing it from the groom's best friend's point of view, I didn't see it like that then. I was constantly trying to be creative and constantly trying to emulate what I saw, and obviously I sucked at it, and eventually it didn't even translate into happy clients. The clients
True.
were not the clients were like, what are these photos? We don't understand them. Where are we in it? And then that style evolved into trusting my own gut, and understanding that, let me shoot what appeals to me, and what makes me smile when I'm pressing the shutter. And then I realized that I enjoyed shooting people where it looks like there's a connection happening. If it's there's some sort of vulnerability in the moment, or if there is some sort of love, or some sort of joy or tears or some emotion, right? Like, basically, if
Mhm.
I saw and I felt something, which means that they also felt something.
True.
There's a saying that says that, shoot how it feels, not how it looks. And um, and I think that became so much of what I followed eventually. And I think now that's what I do. I try and photograph people, as their family and their friends would see them, and not as an award winning, or a very creative artist would see it. I think we somewhere got lost in the
Mhm.
creative wave, and forgot that these are real memories for people. And I think now I see it like that, and that's how I shoot. So I think I learned empathy from there. I learned to see things from there, and I think that's what photography taught me. It's taught me to see the other person's point of view.
Mhm. Okay. So you said that you were influenced by other people's work, and you realized that that wasn't really translating into the Indian setting, or your clients were not happy with that. But a lot of times, what also happens, especially now, again, I'm going back to Instagram and social media, because we're always scrolling and looking at content. I'm
Yeah.
sure this happens with you, that clients come with a
Yeah.
set of images and say, "मुझे ऐसी photo चाहिए मेरी शादी पे."
Yeah.
So, but you as a photographer know that the kind of setup that you have, uh,
Yeah.
it'll not translate into this kind of an image.
Yeah.
So, in that situation, what do you do? How do you make them
So that's
understand?
actually a
What is the
great
process?
question. Great question, Sahil. So I think we go back to the discovery call when you have with the
Hmm.
client, right? And that's when you discover what their likes and their dislikes are. So in that discovery
Yeah.
call, you also tell them expectation versus reality. So I tell them, this is Instagram versus reality. What you see on my Instagram is also just 10% of what the actual work is. So I tell them that,
Yeah.
I encourage them that, okay, you know what, see the you like this particular wedding, or you like this particular setup, but see the whole wedding. Like, see everything
True.
from their puja that happened in one small banquet hall. Don't see just the beach wedding. See that puja also, and see the barat also, and see the sangeet also, which had an ugly LED setup at the back, in spite of me telling them not to have it. So see it all. I think
Hmm.
it's so important to prepare them and to educate them, right? Because, see, this is
Yeah.
their first wedding. It's your 100th wedding, but it's their first wedding. And
True.
they're probably not aware of so much, in spite of having Instagram. At the end of the day, they only see one picture, and they're not sure how
Yeah.
much went into that picture. So a lot of times when brides also come to me with references of amazing work where uh, who's that the Pandey girl who got married right now, Elena Pandey. What was her name?
I
Okay,
am
so
not familiar with
Alia Bhatt. Okay,
celebrities.
let's take Alia.
Sorry,
Let's
wrong
take
person to ask.
Okay, let's take Alia Bhatt for reference, right?
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, everybody comes up with Alia Bhatt's photograph, and I'm like, Alia Bhatt got married with 10 people in her house. I could control their
Yeah.
environment. If you get married
True.
with 2,000 people with absolute chaos, I cannot control anything, whether it's light, whether it's sound, whether it's how many people decide to jump up on that mandap and leave no space for you, whether uh, you're getting married in a humid city like Goa where your makeup's going to melt off. There's nothing I can do. So I think it's so
True.
important to tell people everything that you know in your experience, right? Like something as simple as the fulo ka chadar, right? So in my
Yeah.
experience, every time somebody has a jali jali wala fulo ka chadar and they're getting married in the day, they're going to get shadow on their face, no matter what they
Yes.
do, right? So they
Yes.
are gonna get ugly shadows. So what I tell them is, don't do full of each other. Just avoid it, or have something that's like just covered completely. But again, that's a tip that I already know of because I've already experienced what can go wrong with it. So I tell them that, and I think
Mm.
that is what all those calls do. They help you and help them understand how much, and they in turn are going to see how much experience you have and how much knowledge you have, and I think they pretty much will hire you for it.
I think the common thing that I'm getting from all of this is draw from your experience and
Yeah,
make them understand. Maybe visually, if they're
yeah,
not understanding it, because you have those photos, show it to them
yeah, yeah,
and tell them that this is what you're going to get. If
yeah.
you're okay with it, then let's go ahead with it.
Yeah. And I think
So
you don't have to be harsh about it. You don't have to be,
yes.
like, yeah, you don't understand anything and what is wrong with you. And,
Hmm.
don't talk to your client like that. Don't put them down in any way.
Hmm.
Tell them very sweetly that, guys, while I love the idea of, 20 of you walking with the bride, it's just going to be chaotic because
Hmm.
what happens is we don't, so in the West, they have a rehearsal dinner. They know exactly when
Yes.
they're walking down the aisle. They know what they're doing. We don't have that. When the bride has to walk down the aisle, suddenly mama, chacha, brother, everybody is in the front and everybody is like running helter skelter. And there's absolute chaos. And they've probably covered the bride in that chaos. And the bridal walk, which is the moment, has lost its uh, beauty and importance. So again, I think I tell them that, guys, while it's a great idea, maybe what about if everybody walks behind you instead of in front of you, so that even if there is chaos, the camera misses it, you know? And
Yes.
they're like, yeah, that makes sense. At the same time, everybody else feels important that they got to walk down the aisle, and the bride got her moment, and yeah, you kind of avoided a big fiasco.
Very true, very true. Uh, I once shot a Christian wedding, did a rehearsal dinner, mind blown that there's a rehearsal for a wedding, this thing. But when I was actually shooting the wedding, it was a very liberating experience. Having shot all those chaotic weddings. Uh, but again, that's not to say that those chaotic weddings can't create great moments. Both have
Yeah,
their own, both have their own charm.
yeah. But it takes a little skill to maneuver yourself around the chaos and a lot of
Definitely does.
experience.
Definitely. Yes. And a lot of getting used to of all that chaos. Now, uh, a little bit about the gear that you use. If you
Yes.
could just tell us in brief, what is it that you carry in your camera bag to a typical wedding assignment?
Honestly, I wish I could just take one camera and one lens to a wedding. That is my dream. But until that is possible, I think my recent favorite lens to go to is the 24 mm. I use the
Okay.
24 mm 1.8, and I have the Z6 II with me. Yeah.
Okay.
I think these are my constants. Like I can shoot everything with it. I can shoot a portrait with it. I can shoot the mandap with it. I can shoot the sangeet with it. All of it. But at the same time, I have a second body as well. So I used to shoot with two bodies on me, but then
Mm-hmm.
then it just became cumbersome, and I realized that
Yeah.
maybe having one camera might just work better for me in terms of giving me less back pain. So yeah, then I started using just one camera. But before that, I used to use two Z6 II bodies, and I used to have
Mm-hmm.
one 24 mm on me, and probably the 50 on the other camera. Yeah, the 50 mm. Yeah. So generally portraits or family pictures and things like that would happen on that. The 35 was also a constant. I also have the 35 mm in my bag. I have the 85 as well. Um, but I think I end up using them a little less now because I think I've just developed the style where I kind of want to do more storytelling. Also, the 24 mm is
Okay.
lighter in weight, so yeah, it helps. The lighter the lens, the more favorite it becomes.
Okay. So my
Yeah,
next question was going to be, what is your favorite piece of equipment? I think we already have the answer for that. It's the
yeah,
24 mm lens.
yeah,
But a very important point that you brought up is that you shoot almost everything with that 24 mm, and that's something. Not, I'm not going to dwell into that too much because we're towards the end of the session.
yeah,
But people should understand that uh, it's not that if you're doing portraits, it has to be with a 50 or a 105 or a 70 mm.
yeah.
Pretty much any focal length can be utilized for any kind of photo that you want to shoot. It's just how creative with it you are and how you use that lens. So I think that's
Yeah.
something that people should understand.
Yeah, but I think that also depends on your situation, right? Because if you want
Yes.
to, if supposing you're dealing with a subject who is slightly overweight, okay, and it's a bride who's conscious of how she looks or how her weight is. I think then the 85 would be nicer. It'll give more compression. It'll give separate her from the background. It'll
Yes.
just enhance her physical appearance instead of making her look wider as a 24 mm would. And
True.
uh, no, that being said, you can use both. I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think again, composition is key to everything. Lighting is key to everything. Put half of her in the
Yes.
shadow, you'll still shoot a great picture with a 24 mm, and she'd still not look overweight. So yeah,
That's true. That's true. Uh, we can go talking about this for hours at end, but
yeah.
unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today's session. Again, I would like to thank you for giving us this time and sharing all this invaluable knowledge with us and our viewers. I hope we can do another of these sessions soon because I'm sure you have still a lot more to share from the experience that you've gathered over the years.
Let's hope more
So
people want to
again,
listen to me.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. So thank you so much for joining
Thank you.
us. It was a great, great pleasure. And like I said, let's do this again. And also a big thank you to our viewers for joining in. Remember, this session and all these previous sessions stay on YouTube, Nikon India channel, so you can always go back and watch them at your own leisure. And yeah, with that, it is a goodbye from me for today's session. Hope to see you in the next session, which will be again soon. And yeah, thank you and good
Thank
evening.
you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Dhanika.
Sahir. Thank you, everybody at Nikon. And it was wonderful giving my two silly cents here. So, thank you for having me. I'm very, very grateful. And I hope to do this again soon. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. Bye,
Bye.
guys. See you
Thank
again.
you. Am I still there?